If you get the next first question, will you support a bill to implement zero-based budgeting in the state government?
Well, yes, I do. I believe that that's the only way, especially in difficult economic times, to be able to really get a handle on it. And I know the General Assembly has wrestled with the question of how to try to make cuts from our expenditures, and I commend them for their efforts. It's very difficult work. A zero-based budgeting approach simply says you start with a blank sheet of paper. And instead of having programs that have justification based on the fact they were in last year's budget, you have to justify why they're there in this year's budget. That to me makes sense. It makes more sense in hard economic times perhaps than it did in times when we weren't so concerned about all of the money we were spending. But I want to tell you, the real discipline is going to be this. After we live through these hard economic times, is to have leaders who are going to say, we have made our judgments about our priorities, let's don't fall back in the trap of overspending and creating new programs again. We don't need to be in a yo-yo cycle, up and down. We need to use the good times to collect our reserves and be prepared for the hard times.
Certainly I'd support legislation for zero-based budgeting, but candidly, don't need a piece of legislation to do it as governor. Employed zero-based budgeting as Secretary of State. That was the first thing that we did in those initial months coming in, and that was how, over the course of my time as your Secretary of State, I was able to permanently downsize the Secretary of State's office by almost 20%. I think that we made a really big mistake by using furloughs, a short-term budget approach. You use a furlough when you have a short-term cash flow, not when you have cash flow problem, not when you have a long-term budget issue. And we need to get serious about that. But it'll take more than just zero-based budgeting. It is going to take real prioritization of the programs, a serious initiative to modernize state government with more technology, and making sure that we are making the right kinds of reductions that are going to have to be made. As a lifelong conservative, and for all of you, how long have we talked about the principle of limited government? A long time. This is our opportunity to actually make good on that principle and make the kind of cuts to permanently downsize our government.
Smaller government, lower cost of government, more accountability in government, and more transparency in government. Hard economic times give you the opportunity to go to those priorities. Sometimes good times, people are not willing to make those hard judgment calls. Let's don't, I hate to paraphrase Rahm Emanuel on anything. But you know, this is a crisis that we don't need to let go to waste in terms of proving that Republicans believe in smaller government, believe in more responsible government, believe in personal responsibility, and believe that individuals should be able to keep more of their money because they know how to spend it better than the government does. If we really believe that, let's use these hard times to implement the things we say we believe in.
I am the only candidate in this race who has said that we need to look at not only permanent reductions in the state government, but also it will entail workforce reduction. It is unrealistic and disingenuous for anyone to say that we would be able to do the kinds of reductions we need to make without looking at workforce reduction. So I know that that is going to be difficult, but it will have to be done. In terms of making cuts, we can start, ladies and gentlemen, with the program expansions that were done with federal stimulus dollars. Those should be the first ones to go. People got pay raises off of federal stimulus dollars. That is unacceptable. We need to consolidate state agencies, look at outsourcing to get better bang for buck on those areas that are not core mission, and then modernize policies within state government. It would probably surprise all of you to hear that we still use the old-time vacation, sick, and comp time at the state government with individuals making six-figure salaries that are eligible for comp time. And right now, there is a liability on the state budget of over $200 million for accrued vacation, sick, and comp. That's got to change.